What's happening, y'all? That is a tune called Hector, MacDonald, the Hero. It's a Scottish tune. It's one of my favorites, and I had recorded a video on this one years ago, maybe a decade or so, I can't remember, but somebody recently posted a comment saying, well, that's not a lesson, you're just playing it. I went back and looked, well, that can't be the case, and no, that's what it was, I was just playing it. So then I thought, well, I'm sure I've done a video on this one at some point in the years since, and went back through the channel again, and no, I haven't ever actually broken this one down, which is a shame, because I really like this tune, and there's a lot you can do with it, so let's break it down. Like all tunes, there's several ways you can play it. I learned this one originally from the Bothy band in the key of A. Most folks these days seem to be playing it in the key of D, and I would say it's the simplest if you've got a D whistle, so that's what we're going to do here. If you're interested in some more options, including playing this tune in the key of A, as well as all sorts of other ornaments and variations, check out my Patreon. This is another one of my deep dive series videos, so if you were interested in that, there's an option for you. But let's talk about the basic melody here in the key of D. The tune is written as a waltz. It's written in 3/4. It's often played as an air, a little bit more freeform, but for the purposes of this little demonstration, we're going to stick to kind of waltz time. So nice and slow. Here we go with the basic melody of the A part. So that's the first half of the A part. The second half will reuse that first line, basically the half, we'll reuse that, and then the second part will be different, as is fairly common. So here we go, second half of the A part. Cool. Hopefully we got it. We're going to run through the whole A part. Nice and slow again, basic melody. Just see how much you can get. Here we go. Okay, cool, hopefully. Hopefully you're able to get through that all right. The B part jumps up into the second octave. This is not a tune that is super shrill, which is kind of nice. It stays really just basically within a 1-octave range because it also fits on the Highland bagpipes in a similar kind of format here. So not a huge range on the tune. To me, that's what makes it kind of special. It does a lot with very little, I think anyway. Enough of that, time for the B part. Here we go. So there we've got the beginning of the A part, obviously is different, but it sort of ends the same way that the first part of the A part ended. Did I say A part? Meaning the B part is different than the A part, but it ends sort of the way the A part ends. Hopefully that wasn't super confusing. Here's the second half of the B part, goes back up to that second octave D. And there again, hopefully that's going to sound familiar because the second half of the B part ends the same way the second half of the A part ends. So we're able to copy and paste, hopefully, at least some of these moves, some of these techniques that we've got here. So once through the B part, all the way through, here we go. So that's the whole tune. Hopefully you're able to get all that, run that a bunch, get the good control of that basic melody, particularly in that upper octave, making that jump. That's a phrase that can get tricky because you're kind of bouncing a fair few fingers all at the same time. Make sure you're good and comfortable with that before we dive into. A lot of ways to play this tune, and the ornament selection that you'll do would sort of dictate that, or would be determined, I suppose, by that. You can sort of play it bagpipey and marchy. You can play it sort of Irish and airy, so it really just depends on what you're going for. But here's a few things that I would do, particularly when we're kind of playing it as a waltz like we've been doing so far, like this. Couple of slides right there, and I do like to slide that first one just to really punch up the downbeat, punch up the one, because that's sort of a bagpipey kind of thing. And a reminder, when we're doing slides, always try to slide vertical, slide north. You don't want to slide across. It's not as efficient. Keep in mind that there's only so much you can do, I suppose, if you get large fingers like mine, and it kind of gets squished. But try to slide up as much as you can. So, and then to separate those last two, I will almost always tap. You could cut, that's fine. That would be more of a Scottish sort of pipey sound. The tap, to me, just seems to fit a little bit better on the whistle, but you do you. Again, cutting that F sharp there, the downbeat, the one, just to punch it. Could tap that also to separate, add an extra note there if you wanted to. Gives it a bit of a lift, I suppose. Kind of nice. When I land that note, again, trying to accent the one, the downbeats as much as I can, that's a nice, easy, subtle way to punch it up, I think. What we're doing is I'm going from F sharp to E, and as I land that E, I'm actually accidentally bouncing off of that bottom D. And if you do it quickly, it's got a nice little punch to it. Practice it slow. No harm in that at all. And then to separate those, if you're doing that double E thing, again with the tap, nice and subtle, you could cut just as easily. Either one works. Then coming back around here. Few ways to do that jump, octave jump there. That's sort of the hook of the tune that I would say, or at least it sounds like it to me. Could go some sort of a pickup note into it. That's kind of nice. Right? You can come out of it that way. Or if you really wanted to get fancy, a little rolly, triplety kind of thing into it. So a couple of things you could try there if you wanted to make that interesting. There's really not much I'm doing on that except tonguing to get a little bit of that separation, some lift. Could do a bit of a rolly triplet there as well. The triplets don't work as well on the bottom part of the whistle as they do on the top part, where you can get that punchy part. You can't really do it on the bottom end, so use that one at your own discretion, I would suppose. But nice and simple way to end that phrase too. Again, with the taps on the low E to separate the two, and then could cut the final one to finish the phrase. That's sort of a nice place for a cut, particularly if you're doing it as sort of a marchy, Scottish kind of sound. To jump into the B part, I'll almost always slide all these. I'll always do that kind of phrase. Well, not always. Almost always do that phrase. I really like sliding between the high D and that second or the first octave B. To me, that's one of those classic whistle sounds, that particular slidey bit that you get from A to B. It just works. It's fairly easy to get, so I like to throw it in whenever I can, particularly on a slower tune like this. I think it fits pretty well. Now, when you have that repetitive A, there's a couple things you can do there. Nice and simple. They're just going A, B, A, and then a tap to separate the last two. Could do a couple of taps. Could do a cut and a tap. I would experiment with that and find what phrasing and what ornaments suit you and suit that tune the best in your ears. Carrying on then. That bit, that bouncing between the B and the low D, is sort of the hook of the B part to me, at least as far as I can tell, so I like to have some fun with that. Could do some staccato bits there, give it some lift that way. Nice and simple tapping an extra B in there too. And then the same trick that I've been doing 3 or 4 times now when I go from F sharp to E, bouncing off of that low D. Back again to that slidey bit, coming back up to the second time through. Now sometimes when I really want to accent, usually the last time through, I'll do that earthquake ornament there to punch up that note. And for those who don't know what I mean with that earthquake ornament, when I go from B to A, I'm pretending that this middle finger hits so hard it knocks the top finger off. And right back down. So slowly, that's how we do that. Jumping that octave, I'll usually slide into that F sharp like I did in the beginning. Back up to that high D. Could throw an extra grace note if you wanted to hit that, as long as you could really stick the landing. And then finishing the phrase basically the same way with the same options that you've got before. Let me know if you dig this tune. It's really one of my all-time favorites. I'll put a few other versions of this tune below too. Definitely check those out. I think it's worth hearing other people's takes on any tunes. But this one in particular, because there's some room for variation. There's room for some different choices. So listen to those and see if you can take something from some of those. So listen to it. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you all in the next one. Cheers.